Hello everyone, David Lee here. Today I'll be talking about learning narratives for your project-based learning units and projects. A learning narrative is a visual representation of what your students will experience within a unit or a project, whether represented as a digital graphic, a slide deck, a video, or any type of storytelling medium. A learning narrative shows a chain of learning events that depicts students' learning experience as a compelling story in project-based learning. In this respect, the students who undergo this experience are the heroes of the learning narrative, and we, the educators, are the mentors who guide them through their learning journey. This makes the unit or project more meaningful and relevant because, as the protagonists, they are the ones who are making key decisions that have consequences, whether good or bad, to overcome obstacles and resolve the problem of the narrative. Learning narratives are beneficial because they help educators see the relationship between the learning events within a project or a unit. It provides a holistic view of how each learning event is essential to the overall narrative, but also how the concepts or the standards of the unit or project are connected to one another, all working together like the gears of a mechanical watch. It brings the project down to its essence. It's similar to the constellation analogy by Neil Stephenson, who said that if you look at a sky full of stars, you can't make sense of it. If you take a few stars, link them together and make a constellation, now you've got a cool picture of a bear, and that's memorable. It's the same with storytelling. You need to reduce it down to something essential that people can engage with. By telling the story of the learning experience and only communicating the essentials, these narratives bring clarity to the purpose of the learning, depicting visually the why of the learning, and providing a clear sense of direction of what the learning will lead to. But most importantly, it keeps in mind the student's perspective. It is the students who we are designing these learning experiences for. The structure of a learning narrative mimics the structure of storytelling. Here is Freytag's pyramid that depicts the storytelling structure. First, you have the exposition, where the scene is set and the background is explained. Next, you have the complication, or the rising action, where the story builds because things start to get more complex for the protagonist. Until we have the climax, the turning point, where the story reaches its most tense point between the protagonist and the problem of the story, or the antagonist. Then we have the reversal, or the falling action, where the protagonist takes action to start solving the problem. And finally, we have the denouement, the moment of release where the protagonist solves the problem or conflict, and there's a sigh of relief from the climax. You can find the story structure in one of my favorite stories, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. In the exposition, Gandalf learns that Bilbo's ring is the One Ring, crafted by the Dark Lord Sauron. In the Complication Act, the Fellowship is created and begins their quest to destroy the One Ring. After a long journey, in the Climax Act, Frodo and Gollum meet to fight over the ring. Then in the reversal, there is a huge battle that results in the destruction of Sauron and the rescuing of the hobbits. And finally, in the denouement, the enemy scatters in disarray, and Aragorn is crowned king. In a learning narrative, we have similar acts: the entry event and questions, investigation, problem or challenge, creation and test, and final product. We start with an entry event, an event that sparks curiosity and questions, and introduces students, our heroes of this narrative, with the context of the project. Then we have investigations where students try to answer the questions they generated from the entry event to gain essential knowledge and skills, while learning more about the project's context. Next is the problem or challenge. With all they have learned so far about the context, they identify a specific problem or the challenge that needs to be completed within a real-world context that will lead to positive change or improvement. After that, students apply what they've learned and use their creative mindset to develop, create, and test their solution to the problem or a product that demonstrates their learning. And finally, the final product, where students make final improvements, fix the last failure points, and then present the final product to an authentic audience. Ideally, the people they are solving the problem for. And then they do their final reflection on their learning. As you can see, there are a lot of project-based learning elements. We have sustained inquiry, a challenging problem, student voice and choice, and a public product, all integrated into one unit or project, Additionally, you can see how the chain of events contain a cause and effect relationship between them. You can place your learning narrative graphic right into your unit plan to help teachers see clearly how the learning activities create a cohesive experience and what direction the learning will lead to. I like to place it in stage 1 of the UBD unit plan,